Hi, this is Dr. Neil Bompani. Welcome to my channel, Your Child's Education, Saving Your Child from the Failing U.S. Public Education System. Today we're going to be discussing the Hitler Doctrine, the origins of modern propaganda, and why it works. First, let me remind people of something, and that's the idea of condemnation before investigation. I ask the same questions. Are you the kind of person who will simply dismiss what another person might say because it doesn't align with your personal, spiritual, or political beliefs? Maybe you have encountered someone who shuts another person down before that person even explains anything. Maybe you have done this yourself. Maybe somebody's done it to you. So many people seem blinded by their ideology that anything the other side says must be wrong and they must stop it. I think we take our cues from many of our leaders. It just happens on TV all the time. Very few people today seem to listen to what others have to say, and almost nobody is willing to take the time to consider an idea that's different from theirs, let alone take more time to find out if that idea has any validity, do a little research. I believe that if we can talk and listen, we might not be too far apart on many of the issues that are being used to divide us. So, what kind of person are you? Again, I hope you'll give me the chance to share my thoughts. Okay, the Hitler Doctrine, what I call the Hitler Doctrine. Joseph Goebbels, minister of propaganda under Adolf Hitler, is famous for making use of the big lie. The big lie strategy came from Hitler's own writing in his book, Mein Kampf. The strategy has been adopted by many of our present-day politicians, educators, those in the woke movement, and the media. I'm calling it the Hitler Doctrine. And the right has used it also, so I'm not going to give them a pass. Now, Hitler and Goebbels used the big lie to influence millions of Germans into following him straight into hell. He used the big lie to send millions to the gas chambers, including 6 million Jews. One of Hitler's first uses of the big lie was to blame the Jews for Germany's World War I loss, citing his belief in the Jews' unqualified capacity for falsehood, as he put it. It is interesting how evil people blame others for the very things that they themselves are doing. Let's read how Hitler explained the big lie, and here it is, in his own words. If you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. The lie can be maintained only for such time as the state can shield the people from the political, economic, and/or military consequences of the lie. It thus becomes vitally important for the state to use all of its powers to repress dissent. For the truth is the mortal enemy of the lie, and thus by extension, the truth is the greatest enemy of the state. Hitler didn't pull any punches in that. He was letting people know right ahead, right from the start, that the truth was not going to make it. But Hitler was not the first person to start anti-Semitism in Europe. A lot of us went through history classes believing that Hitler awakened this idea of anti-Semitism. It had its roots going back almost 2,000 years. After Rome destroyed Jerusalem in 70 A.D., the Jewish people were exiled from their homeland and scattered throughout the known world. Many settled in Europe and Russia. Through the Middle Ages, they were constantly persecuted. First by the Catholic Church, in ways so barbaric that they make even our CIA waterboarding tactics seem like a day at the beach. Most European Jews lived in poverty, although there were shrewd people like Mayer Amschel Rothschild and his sons who managed to take over the financial world in only a few generations. Interestingly enough, when Hitler began the final solution of the Jewish problem, the Rothschilds sat out the war in luxury and with impunity. Perhaps this was because they actually helped finance Hitler. We'll get more into that maybe in the future. But unfortunately, it was the churches of Europe that played the biggest part in spreading anti-Semitic hatred for centuries leading up to Hitler's rise to power. Hatred can be traced back to the earliest days of the Roman Catholic Church. In the early days of the Roman Catholic Church, they proclaimed that all the promises of the Bible that God made to Abraham and the Jewish people were lost when they denied Christ, and so now the Catholic Church and Catholics were the recipients of God's grace. Now, if anybody reads the Bible, they know this is pure bull, basically. The Protestant churches that resulted after Reformation held on to the anti-Semitic beliefs of the Catholic Church. Please understand, anti-Semitism is in no way Christian and can never be justified within any branch of the Christian faith. I'm going to go so far as saying that any Christian who hates Jews in this way can't possibly be a true follower of Christ. And I'm going to throw a scripture out for those people that may think that. God made a promise to Abraham saying, Those who bless you will be blessed. Those who curse you will be cursed. Hitler's a good example. For the first 500 to 700 years of the history of the Catholic Church, founded around the 6th century A.D., regardless of what they say, most Europeans could not read. When Rome fell in 479 A.D., survival became the main concern for everyone. Reading and writing was not a necessity. It was a luxury. So people had to believe what they were taught. Please see my video on what do you believe and why do you believe it, more explanation. 1,000 years later, even when people began to read, the Catholic Church told its followers not to read the Bible because they couldn't possibly understand Scripture. Okay, and this belief, unfortunately, continues today. So because of the actions of churches, today's critics of Christianity in media, politics, and academia actively work to undermine people's faith by harping on the failings of the human beings of the past. The result is that many people have left the faith. Others have embraced this New Age Christianity, people like Oprah Winfrey, where all faiths lead to heaven. Then there are those who believe in the Jesus who is the genie who grants people their best lives now, along with riches and health. That is, as long as you send those preachers your tithes and, of course, offerings. Tithes aren't enough. Thankfully, there are still some churches that believe in the Bible. Unfortunately, anyone believing that the Bible is the truth is labeled as a hater, racist, homophobe, etc. And if you don't take the time to really understand what is in the book, then you're listening to people that are making these, you're listening to the big lie. Okay, let me move on. I mentioned how for centuries Europeans could not read or write. Today we're at a point where many of our high school graduates are functionally illiterate. This means that they learn only what they are told and they don't have the skills to truly investigate whether what they have been taught is true or not. On top of that, many have been convinced that their feelings should be their true guide to all that is truth. Unfortunately, anyone who disagrees with them can't use the same reasoning. We can't say, well, you feel that's true, I feel this is true, and you're going to lose that argument. So many of us are left with these things called facts, which make woke people feel bad so they don't pay attention to them. When you realize that young people have been programmed through the big lie on how to feel and what to believe, you should be worried, you should be terrified. Okay, most of us agree that Hitler was one of the most evil human beings who ever lived. He used the big lie along with fear and terror to lead an entire country to believe his insanity, and it cost the lives of over 60 million people. Please remember that this was done in the name of National Socialism, Nazi Party. After Hitler, the Marxist countries like Soviet Union and China would use Marxism to kill millions more. One fact that our schools fail to teach is that socialism is the introduction to Marxism. If you read Marx, people will not accept communism, but they'll accept socialism. And then you lead them right into total communism. But it can only be done under a totalitarian government. When you realize how many edicts are being just pronounced by our leaders today, this should scare you. What about the big lie today? People do not realize that Hitler rose to power without a majority of the public behind him. Early on, Hitler silenced those who opposed him in the same manner that groups like Antifa do today. Whenever people assembled and spoke against Hitler, small groups of Hitler's brown shirts would show up in the back of the room and shout the speakers down. Newspapers were controlled by the state and censored dissent. And once Hitler gained full power, those who opposed him were sent to the concentration camps. People feared Hitler. Even in the beginning, when they could have shut him down, they still feared him. The rest of Europe believed his big lies. Well, if you just give me the Sudetenland, I won't need anything else. If you just give me Austria, we'll be fine. And then he gets Czechoslovakia. It was just ridiculous. Even when he invaded Poland, France and England together could have brought Germany to its knees right away. They hesitated. They gave Hitler the time to build up forces. Then he surprised them with his blitzkrieg, and you know how the rest went. I submit to you, if you watch any of the videos on YouTube where the woke constituency attends presentations given by conservative speakers, you will see the same kind of Nazi-like activism. People show up and shout down the speaker by calling them names. When you consider the leaked Twitter accounts that show our FBI and CIA conspired with social media to silence any dissent from the right before the last election, this should scare the hell out of you. Since the media will not cover this, most people remain blind, even those who do know. They figure, well, our side won, it was the right thing to do. In other words, the outcome justifies the means. That's not morally right. Please consider this. When people go out of the way to silence dissent, that means they fear it. If you remember what Hitler said, the truth is the mortal enemy of the lie. The big lies put forth and repeated by a small group of people controlling communication, academia, and the media have poisoned the minds of many people today, especially among our young. Our young have had years of indoctrination through public education where they've only gotten one side of an argument. They go on to college and universities, which are equally influencing these young people, not because of their research, because of the money they're getting. And a lot of that money comes from China. Now, I'm not saying that what conservatives are saying is totally true or not. I'm not saying that everyone on the left is wrong. I'm merely saying when one ideology goes to the length that we're seeing today of using the same Nazi fascist strategies as Hitler used to silence opposition, we should all sit up and take notice. I'll offer more insights on this strategy as my articles are published here. But from now on, if you listen to any of my videos or you read any of my articles, I may mention this big lie as the Hitler Doctrine. Please keep that in mind. All right. If you like my videos, please like, subscribe, ring the bell. It would be greatly appreciated. My site is set up so I do not use it for any kind of selling. I'm not making money on this. I just want to see if I could help. So visit my site at www.yourchildseducation.com, and you can get in touch with me there. You can leave feedback. You can start a discussion. I'm really looking forward to seeing how many people will come out and try to help me to help other parents. Thank you very much. Bye.